Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. One of the things I like doing is I like making my own tools. I think it's a great way to build your skills with still having some sort of pride in something you've made and will use when you come out to your shop. One of the first projects I made were these sanding blocks. I found the plans in a shop notes and I went ahead and built them. They are, I don't even know what wood this is. It was Woodcraft scrap pack of exotic woods. The rest is oak from Home Depot or Lowe's, I don't remember. But I went ahead and made these. The only tools I really had at the time was I had a table saw and I had the handheld drill that I drilled the hole for. And I had a set of chisels. So it's really just a wing nut with the sandpaper. The bolt is inlaid in there and there's an inlay of wood. So I did some chisel work to kind of do that. So that really taught me that. And then I sanded it flat. But that was really kind of one of my first projects. My second was this. I made this mallet. And I worked with contrasting woods. This is I believe it is maple, and it literally was part of a branch that fell down. I wasn't quite going to a hardwood supplier yet, so I made that using part of a branch. And then from that same pack of exotic woods, I had these walnut pieces. So I worked on contrasting woods. I put in different color wedges. And then I also tried this. I also tried doing inlay for the first time. It's rough, but it was my first attempt. And I think it's good for something like this. If it's not quite perfect, it's just something I'm using in the shop. But I was really able to kind of work with my chisel skills there, because that all was put in with a chisel. I got this hock plane that I built. And then here is the Reese plane that I made with my niece Reese in one of the earlier episodes. So today we're gonna make this, right? This is a kit from Penn State Industries, and I have this piece of olive wood. Olive wood is one of my favorite woods to turn. Kind of smells like olive oil when you turn it, but it also has really cool grain patterns. And I think this will be perfect for my shop tool. This kit came from Penn State Industries. In this kit I have the main shaft that'll go in there like that. This will hold the bits. It also flips out to hold different size bits. This will actually go into the wood block and hold this piece. There's a ferrule here that will go on this end and a cap that will go on the back. That's really all there is to it. Now, this piece of olive wood didn't dry straight, so there's a little bit of a bow in it. That'll come out when I'm turning it, but these ends are no longer square. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and square these up on the table saw. You really don't need to see that.
My first mistake is I never truly got those square. When I went to the table saw, the sides weren't square to each other, so they didn't rest against the fence really well. So the ends aren't even parallel with each other. That got compounded down the road as I started to drill the holes and add the furrows and the components and stuff. This olive wood, though, is fun to turn. I really like it. You can see it just come right off the tool. It smells like olive oil. It cuts like butter. And then when you're done, the finish is just silky smooth right off the tool, as you can see here. Okay, because the ends weren't straight, I'm just compounding a problem here when I go to drill these. It's not resting flat on the table, and it's throwing it off a little bit as I go ahead and drill these holes. It's a mistake that just keeps compounding and making it worse and worse as we go further down the project.
Okay, I drilled a 9/16 hole for this to get pushed down into. Now I want to drill a hole to allow for the shank to come down. So I switched to a smaller drill bit. I don't want to remove more wood or meat from this than I have to. So.
Okay, here's mess up 3 and 4. I don't drill this hole deep enough, so I have some hard times getting the entire shaft in with the bit. You'll see that later. But I lose it here, and I lose grip on it. And it just goes all over the place, and it wobbles, and it adds to the problems. You can see it wobbling there. It's obviously not quite straight. So now I'm measuring the furl. It wasn't too bad to turn. I was able to kind of get it down and be pretty close to where it needed to be. The only thing I didn't really do is I never really came back and cleaned up that shoulder, and that kept the furl from sitting down on that piece nice and firmly, and it sort of left a gap. If I do it again, I'll probably do a little bit of an undercut, just so it sits real nice and tight and you don't see that gap. So now I'm just shaping the piece. I'm coming down to the dimension at the end, so there'll be enough room to leave the brass cap on the end. And I'm just going ahead and I'm shaping just what feels good as a tool in my hand. I want it to be a little bit on the thicker side so I can get a good grip on it, but I also don't want it to look ridiculous either. Going ahead and sanding. I go through the grits. I go up to 320. I don't really go too much more if I'm putting an oil on it. So this is just mineral oil. It's what I use on my cutting boards. It's simple. It really makes it shine. I also went ahead here and put some paste wax on top of it. Sped the whole lathe up and just buffed it out. So I cut this off right there on the saw. It's easy to do. There you go. I decided to put grooves in here to help hold this piece in. It might have worked. The epoxy might have grabbed better. I don't know if I would do it again. I don't know if it harmed it by doing anything. It can only help. I don't really think it messed with the piece too much. So I'm hammering down the furl. And it's just going down. It's not too bad. But here's where I could have cleaned that shoulder up better, and it could have, you know, sat better down there. Plus, it's a little bigger than the furl, so it's hard to bang down to sit flush because the wood part of inside the furl gets in the way.
Okay, I made up some epoxy, and I'm just going to put some on this piece. Put it in there. And hammer it home.
So this is where I really messed up from the directions. I eventually found them online. But if you look here, my solution, just hit it with a bigger hammer.
That's not going well.
So I finally realized it's not going right. So what's my solution? That's it. Hit it with a hammer more.
Well, this is not going together like I would have liked it to. This is in crooked. Yeah, so it's crooked. One of the things I don't really know what's making it crooked. I guess the hole I drilled wasn't quite straight.
Maybe because you were banging on it like a gorilla mad at a banana.
Yeah. With no directions, it was really difficult to figure out how this would actually work.
That's another thing. Blame it on the directions.
Yeah. Well,
you clearly messed it up.
Let me try to think of a way to kind of salvage this.
So I put it back in the lathe. It's running on what is the metal part of the shaft of the screwdriver. and I'm just going to take some more wood up and try to true it up somewhat. And I had to really remove a good amount of wood here to get it round again. I went ahead and sanded it just like I did before, up to 320. I went ahead and drilled a little hole in the back. This is to kind of hold on that brass end cap. I had a hard time getting this hole drilled really centered too. It tended to wander. Here's the cap. I go ahead and I just hammer it in with my mallet. So my thinking here is that I'm going to turn down the brass to kind of make it fit. You can turn brass on a wooden lathe. Any soft metal you can kind of turn, especially with a carbide cutter. But it kept catching and it didn't really go very well. At this point I gave up. I just put a pair of pliers on the end, turned the lathe on, and pulled it off. It wasn't working. I'm applying the same finish I did before, mineral oil and some wax. Hey guys, there we have it. Here's the screwdriver. Okay, so there's a couple things. If I roll it, it's still not really true. There's a wobble in it. I also didn't get this shoulder done very well, so this furrow would sit nice and tight. I never went in and cleaned that up, and you can notice it. The turning could be better, but partly because I had to turn this to get so much of that wobble out. And as you turn it, you can really see the ferrule's not really, you can see how much wobble I had to take out of it. There's a lot there. I also couldn't get the piece on the back turned down to be the diameter, so now I'm left with a hole there, so I want to try to get that done correctly. And another thing is, this comes apart and it's meant to have two different size bits in it, number 2 and a number 1, but with the bit in there, I can't get this all the way down to seat, and I didn't drill that deep enough, so I want to allot for enough room so I can keep the bit in there all the time instead of keeping it outside separately. It's really meant to stay in the screwdriver so you can flip it out and turn it over if you need to. That's it. Till next time, we'll try this again. Thanks for coming to my shop.